While the president stirs up class warfare in Kansas, one of our largest cities, Detroit, faces disaster and a state takeover even, while municipal unions dig in and refuse to help. Joining me now is syndicated radio host Lars Larson. Lars, I was reading up on this story a little bit now. Let's talk about this. Detroit has a massive budget shortfall. Detroit also has a Democratic mayor, Mayor Bing, who's asked the unions to take a 10% across-the-board pay and benefit cut. The unions say no way. So now it looks like Detroit may turn to Governor Snyder, who happens to be a Republican, for a little bit of help to cleaning it up. How do you see this? How does this play out?
Hey, listen, this is what happens when cities and local governments around America spend more money than they take in. The federal government runs deficit budgets, but states and cities generally aren't allowed to. How about we do this? Why not privatize? Now, I'm not talking about the fire and the police, but every other union in that city, take it all private. Take it out of the hands of the unions. Go out and hire the workers you need, cut it down to bare bones, and live within your means. I'd have a lot more respect for that than going begging to a state government that I'm sure doesn't have the extra cash to make up the difference. It's unconscionable that these governments are spending beyond their means and refusing to toe the line.
But here's a great example of what Scott Walker did in the state of Wisconsin and what John Kasich tried to do in the state of Ohio. Look, before you go into a bankruptcy, before all those bonds that people bought and invested in the city of Detroit, before you do something like that and blow those people out of the water, why not renegotiate? Why not break the union contracts and come back to the table, make it more equitable, maybe bail the city out? They don't seem to want to do that.
No, and if they don't want to play ball with the public, then the public should send them a message. If we can't afford your services, then you're going to have to hit the bricks, and we're going to have to find somebody else to do the job. The fact that these unions will not cooperate indicates, I think, that they hold the upper hand. The public should communicate to them that they do not. And if the mayor of that city is not willing to do that, then they probably need to replace the mayor as well.
Yeah, and Lars, I do a lot of we take apart these bond issuances all over the place. What ends up happening is if Detroit goes into default, the bondholders get screwed. They ask for help from the state, which ultimately is broke as well. So eventually the taxpayer, us watching, are going to bail them all out. But the bottom line is when Detroit gets back on its feet to borrow money again, they're going to pay a much higher interest rate next time around.
That's right, but why should they be borrowing at all? Cut back to just those essential services. I'd imagine that you can walk into any city hall in America and find them spending money on a lot of things that they don't need to spend on. If they were to do a bare bones budget, fire, police, and public safety only, and cut it back to that, and when you have the extra cash, the other thing they could do that would increase revenues, not immediately, but fairly quickly, have every city take a look at the kinds of ridiculous regulations that they have. I've seen plenty of examples just in the last couple of weeks where businesses are being run out of business because of crazy regulations. When you run a business out of business, they're no longer contributing to the tax base of that city. I'll bet Detroit is up to the gills with unnecessary regulations and probably inspections and everything else. Get rid of that, and maybe you'll get some of those businesses back.
And I'm sure Detroit's up to the gills with a lot of union workers. Hang in there, Lars. I'm going to bring you the rest of tonight's All-Star panel. On the left, by satellite, Fox News contributor Tamara Holder, and on the right, radio show host Chris Plant. Tamara, my good friend, look, Chicago, Detroit, two very, very heavily unionized, very liberal, very left-leaning cities. Detroit is about to fall into the hands of the state of Michigan, which may end up falling into the hands of the American taxpayer as well. So why is it that these big, heavy union cities are having such a problem with their budgets? Any coincidence?
Well, I think that, well, is there a coincidence? Yeah, but it's not the union workers that are the problem. There's a lot of problems with the union bosses and politicians who've taken advantage of the workers from many years ago. You know, we're talking 20, 30 years of pensions and whatever else. But to say that this is all the fault of the union workers and to privatize everything makes no sense whatsoever. There are people who dedicated their lives to public service with the hope of getting a pension, making, you know, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year. There's something we should do for those people.
If the city is going bankrupt, it's going broke, and the unions, look, this is a Democratic mayor. Mayor Bing's a Democrat who says, hey, unions, we have to renegotiate or it's out of my hands. Hold on for a second. Chris Plant, what about it? Should these unions say, suck it up just this one time and renegotiate with a Democratic mayor?
Well, this is something that we've been building toward for a long time, and the unholy alliance between Democrat politicians and the union leaders who are in the pockets of the Democrats and vice versa. Nobody's blaming the employees here, and I don't call Americans workers. Nobody's blaming the employees. The problem is we're broke. We're bankrupt. The politicians have overpromised. The unions then siphon money off, feed it back into the Democrat political coffers. They get reelected. They then promise the union leaders more money. They have these gold-plated Cadillac, retirement plans, health plans, and we can't afford it. It's not, nobody wants to do anybody any harm here. It's a math problem. What we see going on in Greece is going on in Wisconsin, is going on in Detroit. It's time to wake up. We have to get our fiscal house in order. It's not about pointing fingers and blaming people. Let's do the math and get this right.
Right. I think Obama at one point had said, hold on 1 second, Lars. Tamara, Obama from the Rose Garden about a month ago said, it's not class warfare, it's about the math. Here's a great example. Chris Plant points out, it's about the math. Detroit can't afford to pay these people, and they won't negotiate. Go ahead, Tam.
Well, look, there's contractual issues here. So you can't just say we're gonna break these contracts. You have to break it into two, but you have to look at it into two different categories, Eric. There are people who worked their whole lives and are entitled to something by contract. And then there are the new workers. Now, to renegotiate something with new workers, that makes sense. But you can't just say we're broke now, so we can't pay you, even though you dedicated your life to public
Of course
service.
you can, Tamara. Of course you can. Go ahead, Lars. Last word.
Because our country was founded upon
all right, yeah, we know that, Tamara, but our country also didn't expect cities to go bankrupt. When they wrote the Constitution, that wasn't part of the deal. Hold on 1 second, Tamara. Go ahead, Lars.
Sure. Eric, here's the thing. Private companies have faced the same problem. If you have a piece of paper that says you're owed money, but the people you're owed the money by don't have the money, in the private sector, a whole lot of American workers have taken cuts in the last 3, 4, 5 years, including yours truly. We've taken cuts because the companies that we worked for don't have the money anymore, and you do the sensible thing. Keep the operation going so that you can continue getting a paycheck. Tamara's route is to say, I have a piece of paper, you will pay me what I'm owed, and the company or the city goes broke. That doesn't do anybody any good, Tamara.
Then file for bankruptcy, just like a company does.
But see, you know what it is, Tamara, guys, we're going to have to leave it there, but that is what it is. That's why the union model is broken. The only other alternative other than pay us is put whatever it is, the municipality, the state, or the country into bankruptcy, and that's not where we want to go.